you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur.
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the fall!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement, et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Coupe Stanley pour les Canadiens, leur 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs! And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup!
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Vida Tibi. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Marinaro on this Monday, July 28th. Thanks for watching the Sick Podcast on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitter. We're going to talk about the Jayden Struble signing earlier this morning, a 2-year contract extension. They avoid arbitration at $1.4125 million per season. We'll talk about the Canadiens' depth on defense. We'll talk about what this means for Struble. We'll talk about what it means for Xhekaj. We'll talk about the battle between Jayden Struble and Xhekaj for 6 and 7 on the depth chart for the Montreal Canadiens. And we'll talk about what it means for Mike Matheson. Of course, his name has come up at different parts of the summer. Does he stay or do they trade him? Mike Matheson, of course, is going to be going into the final year of his contract, and we'll discuss all that at length with Eric Engels of Sportsnet, and we're going to do that in just a couple of minutes. First and foremost, though, it's my opportunity to talk to you about one of our sponsors, which is Playground. If you're looking for the ultimate entertainment destination, Playground is your ticket to nonstop thrills. Experience heart-pumping gaming action, a world-class poker experience. Playground, the 2025 winner fan choice for the best poker room at the Global Poker Awards. Indulge your taste buds at their incredible restaurants. Let loose with live music. Electrifying DJs. Enjoy unmatched customer service just minutes from downtown Montreal, right across the Mercier Bridge. Why settle for ordinary when you can have extraordinary at Playground? It's all there. Visit playground.ca to discover more. And also brought to you by Bittt at Tibi. They launched their new Ultra Lager, refreshing, thirst-quenching beer, perfect for the summer, with only 90 calories, 2 grams of carbs, 4% ABV per can, available in a pack of 6 and 12. In grocery stores all around the province of Quebec. Ultra light, ultra refreshing. Let's bring in Eric Engels. Eric, how are you?
I'm great, man. How are you?
Very, very well. We want to start the show off by, even though I already started it, by offering our congratulations, of course, to Nick Suzuki and Caitlin Fitzgerald, who Caitlin became Caitlin Suzuki on the weekend officially. And there you have it. They got married here in Montreal. And Eric, I got to tell you, I had so much fun. It's one of the best parties I've ever been to in my life.
Oh, yeah? Tell me more.
It was really, they had a 10-piece orchestra band. It was really... All right. Okay. Speaking of which, great taste in music. Look at this. We got some video footage. All right. And obviously everyone loves Bon Jovi, and especially Patrick Laine, who let loose there, and Jayden Struble, who was smiling because he was probably not only happy for the bride and the groom, but he was probably happy because he probably had the details of a contract already in his pocket. But no, once again, I did not make the wedding list. Nick Suzuki and we did a little TV series for Hellman's last season, and it was not enough to get me invited to the wedding. But what do you? I fell a little bit short. All right, I want to talk about Jayden Struble, and here it is. The Montreal Canadiens made it official earlier this morning at 9 a.m. They avoid arbitration with Jayden Struble. Confirmed in ink, the Canadiens have agreed on the terms of a 2-season, one-way contract with defenseman Jayden Struble. Once again, Eric, $1.4125 million per season. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's very similar to the one that Xhekaj signed last year, right? He was at 1.3, Jayden at 1.4, cap going up a little bit over that time. Both players around the same amount of experience. I think Arbor was at 95 games in the NHL when he signed. Struble at 112 or something like that. it's a good contract for the player who's got a little bit of experience under his belt and a little bit more of a foothold in the NHL. And yet we talk about two guys who are going to be battling each other right off the hop as soon as training camp starts. And that's assuming everybody's healthy. You know, everything we talk about when it comes to the depth chart, Tony, depends on the health of each and every player. But you look at the Canadiens 1 through 7 and even 1 through 10 kind of, and you're looking at a really deep blue line with all kinds of variety on it, right? You've got puck movers, you've got some physicality and edge, you've got some players who are ready to take the next step in their development. Struble and Xhekaj are two of them. Jayden Struble another one. Lane Hudson another one. And Dobson coming in to kind of put a cherry on top of the whole thing. So it's really a compelling blue line. And I think, you know, yeah, it's young, but all these players have kind of grown together. And Jayden Struble is just the latest in a line there that it just puts the whole picture looks pretty healthy there.
Yeah, it does, and it's a very deep blue line, and you got a couple of players in Laval as well, but there could be a little bit of a logjam. What do you think this means for Jayden Struble? Obviously, it means the Canadiens haven't thrown in the towel, but does this necessarily mean that he's in their plans for sure for the next 2 years, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say, right? He's in a competition and a really stiff one at that, right? You build out the top two pairings of the Canadiens. I think everybody would probably do it the same way, and you could mix up the top two pairs, but I think you'll have Goulet and Dobson together. I think you'll have Matheson with Hudson playing on the right, and you've got Alex Carrier locked in on the right. So who's going to take that last spot on the left? Give
me a second. Shane Gameau on Master Control, if we can bring up the depth chart. There you have it, courtesy of I think it was Daily Faceoff who left Xhekaj off, and I included him in there. Once again, give me your pairings, Eric, if you don't mind, now that I can visualize it.
I don't have Mike Matheson playing on the third pairing. I know he's a great pair with Alex Carrier, but I think he'll be on the left side underneath Goulet, with Hudson moving over to the right where he played for most of last season and looked not only good there, but he might possibly be better on the right than he is on the left. That'll be determined over time, and maybe there will come a time where he's back on the left, and we'll see for sure. But I think you have Goulet and Dobson up top. I agree with that. Matheson and Hudson, Carrier locked into that spot, and Struble and Xhekaj are going to be battling out. Not to mention, you know, David Reinbacher and Adam Engstrom and some other guys who are clearly on the cusp of being NHL ready, or at least ready to play some games in this league.
Yeah, I think that makes sense to me, what you just said. It does. Because once again, if Lane Hudson's going to be on your second pairing and he's going to be getting a lot of ice, not so sure that Jayden Struble will be getting as much ice as Lane Hudson. Now, albeit Hudson's probably going to play the first wave of the power play, and Struble will not be playing on the power play. Might be playing on a second pairing of the penalty kill, maybe. I see, of course, Matheson will be on the penalty kill for sure. Jayden Goulet will be on the penalty kill for sure. I would add Carrier, and Struble will probably be a fourth guy, maybe. Yep. So,
well, wait, that's a big question, right? So you've got Struble and Xhekaj. One of them has to emerge with Savard going into retirement as not only a good candidate for the penalty kill, but it becomes a main feature of their role. Look, let's talk about Struble. Let's talk about what he's done so far in the NHL. Let's talk about who he is as a player and why, you know, the Canadiens have rewarded him. And he needs to live up to this right away and potentially prove he's worth more. That would be really valuable both for him and for Montreal, especially they have a logjam down there. Inevitably, they're going to look to fill it more at the forward position. We all know they're looking for a 2C. You know, the best thing that could happen for the Canadiens is some of those guys at the back end of their back end proving up their value to the point where it becomes a very difficult decision for them in terms of who to keep and who to let go, and everybody still has that kind of value maintained. I look at Struble, and we all know he started the playoffs and then finished them kind of sitting, right? Him and Xhekaj swapped.
Yeah.
You know, he played very well down the stretch. Canadiens went 7-4. I think they had 10th best record from March 25th through the end of the season. They went 7-4-2, and Struble was a really strong component of that. He played really well. That's why, you know, we got into this whole debate when the playoffs came. Who are they going to play? Xhekaj?
Yeah, correct. He finished really strong. Not only playing well defensively, but actually making a really good first pass and contributing on a couple of goals.
He was playing really well. I'm going to tell you the best game that he played all year was in January. And I remember it really distinctly. He played about 14 minutes. He had 0 points. He had 5 hits. And him and Caden Gooley were punishing the Vancouver Canucks. I think it was January 5th or 6th at home at the Bell Center. That version of Jayden Struble, if that player can find that version of himself day in, day out in the National Hockey League at his age right now, it's going to give him a leg up in the competition. It's going, because that physical edge, which we know Struble can have, it's not always present. There's been, as you would have with any player his age, consistency issues with that. You know, there have been times where he's been really confident and moving the puck well and good first pass, and you like to see that, and then all of a sudden it slips a little bit and finds himself in trouble. I remember there was a point, you know, when we were in the earlier part of the season where we were on the road and Marty St. Louis was just talking about how he needs to raise his floor significantly to gain a foothold in the lineup. You put all those things together, the quick puck movement, the physical edge that he played with against Vancouver. I don't know if you remember that game, him and Gooley smashing everybody at 5 hits in the game. They were like, the first period in particular, they were crushing guys.
I think wasn't that game in overtime or something like that? It was a
it was a 5-4 overtime game in January.
Yeah.
But
I don't remember Struble's game specifically, but I remember that
Gooley crushed, who was it? Young Swedish forward for Vancouver, or Finnish. Scandinavian for sure. He was playing like one of his first games in the NHL. He got absolutely smoked in the first couple of minutes right near the blue line. Yeah, Lekkerimaki. Thank you, Shane, for saying that.
Yeah, Jonathan Lekkerimaki, yep.
And then Struble on the other side started crushing guys. And I'm not saying that Struble has to have 5 hits every game, okay? He's not going to become Xhekaj. They're not the same player.
Yeah.
But there has to be a consistency in that edge that makes players fear coming down his side. And he knows this. He knows that this is an element that he can bring that gives him an edge, that the only reason you would take him out when he's playing at his best is if you're looking for that edge that Xhekaj brings, right? And this is, again, assuming everybody's healthy. There is a reality where you could have both those players in your lineup and not be upset about it. I mean, they're 2 players that bring a lot of things that help balance out this blue line, and it's going to be a heck of a battle if everybody is healthy. Because
there's also a reality where they could take turns at being in and out of the lineup. I mean, that's the reality.
Yeah, at 1.3 and 1.4 respectively, that is the reality that neither of them would want to happen, but a reality that they have to face if everybody is healthy. Look at
I don't see anyone else's play dropping Eric, if I can, to the point where Marty St. Louis is going to think about them a healthy scratch. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And look at Logan Mailloux last year, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think, you know, you have to put things in context. There were times where Logan Mailloux had some down periods in Laval. I think part of it is just having the avenue to his move up to the NHL so blocked, right? Like, they were really healthy for most of the season. There were points where he was playing out of his mind well in Laval, and there wasn't even a chance that he'd get called up because there was no space for him. Like, you're looking at a similar dynamic now at the NHL level where there's limited space in the lineup. And I don't think with the way the Canadiens are constructed, you're going to see them go with 7D very often. I don't think anybody likes that situation anyways. So and just with Dobson coming in and Hudson there, you have key power play guys. Matheson plays a full-time penalty kill role and will still play elevated minutes with what he can do on the ice. You've got 3 puck movers and 3 guys I just mentioned that are elite. And then you look at how you fill that out. Carrier proved to be such a good part of the formula for Montreal, and you just know that moving forward, it's more comfortable. He's established here. He can play with any single one of their defensemen and make them look good. You know, like, this is not a traditional third pairing guy. He's capable of playing 20 minutes a game, no problem, and playing them in a way that stabilizes virtually anybody he plays with. So, you know, as much as we have him penned into that third pairing just because of the way the depth chart falls, I think you're going to see a relatively even spread of ice time. Like, if the game goes mostly 5-on-5, the Canadiens have a way of spreading this out much more than they did even a year ago with Dobson here now. So it's,
they obviously have to get Matheson under the minutes that he's played over the last couple of seasons because he'll actually be even more effective, as good as he has been, especially a couple of years ago where he was unbelievable. But if they can get him
to play 27 or 26 and average 24 and 50,
you would think he's going to lose some of the power play time, unless, of course, he's on that second wave with Dobson and both of them at the blue line.
Which is possible. You never know. It's not like he's going to play 0 power play minutes all year. And it's not as if the Canadiens are going to be healthy all year. They were particularly healthy after 3 years of the worst health in the National Hockey League. There will be some regression to the mean in that department. It's just a numbers game. That's the way it works. But for people out there that are like, oh, Mike Matheson, they're finally going to reduce his ice time. He's not going to go from averaging 24-50 a game to all of a sudden he's at 18. No, he's still going to play 21, 22 minutes a game, I think, just with what his role is on the penalty kill. The Canadiens, for whatever reason, for a long time now, maybe it's the youth and experience factor, that they're still the youngest team in the league. They rank in the top 5 in penalty minutes for each of the last 3-4 seasons. So
I remember when Marc Bergevin was GM, he talked about wanting to manage Markov's minutes, and in an ideal world, wanting to manage his minutes. And then all of a sudden, you take a look at the time on ice, and it's 24, 26, 25, 27, 24, 26, 25. And I ended up asking him, I remember I asked him, I said, you talk about wanting to manage Markov's minutes. These are the minutes you've been giving him. And this came in like 4 games and 6 nights, or 6 games and 10 nights, or whatever it was. And Marc Bergevin said, you're right. We've talked about wanting to manage Markov's minutes. And at his age and coming off the 2 ACLs the way he did, in an ideal world, you love to do that. But sometimes it's easier said than done. Sometimes you're a coach. You want to win hockey games. You're going to put your better players. So I'm sure the plan is to get Matheson under the minutes. But if Matheson is going and he gives the Canadiens a better chance to win than to lose, they're going to put him out there because he's a cardio machine. I mean, you know that. This guy can play all day and all night.
He's a really good player. Yes, he makes some tragic mistakes. Like, it's been well documented. We've talked about it too much already. But the idea that he could potentially play a lot better this season coming up than he did even the last season is one that Canadiens fans should be wrapping around their heads, because he's going to be better insulated. There's just going to be a better opportunity for him to do that.
Yeah.
It's going to be in a different type of role. It's going to be in a similar role to the one he filled last year, much more than 2 years ago. But he still has a great importance on this blue line, assuming he stays here, right? Like, there is always the possibility he gets traded. And I'll say this, as we talked about the numbers with Struble and Xhekaj at 1.3 and 1.4, or I should say Xhekaj's 1.3, Struble 1.4. Between those 3 guys, right? You have Matheson, Struble, Xhekaj. There's a good chance that between now and the time we're talking at this time next year, one of those guys is not here, right? We talked about the depth lower down. We talked about Mayu having a hard time getting up. We know David Reinbacher is a big part of the future for the Canadiens. They're obviously going to look to get him they're not just going to force him into the NHL lineup when they don't have to. He has to earn that experience, but it's pretty vital to their plans to become a perennial contender that he starts to get some NHL games under his belt. Whether he starts on Laval or not, you expect he's going to play NHL games at some point this year. And he looked last year in camp, before it ended real early for him, like a player who was trending towards getting that opportunity pretty much sooner than later. You look at Adam Engstrom, another player who has real value to the Canadiens. He's going to be knocking on the door. He's so skilled. He's so silky. Gained experience playing on the right side this year, so he doesn't have to be pigeonholed on the left. He did some power play. I suspect they'll have a similar plan for him that they had for Mayu this last year, where they will try to round out his game defensively a little bit.
Yeah.
As injuries start to happen, and they're going to, you will have opportunity for these players to show what they can do. And it just, the key for the Canadiens is that everybody increase their own personal value.
You think, I want to get back to Mayu for a second. You think in Mayu's case, because we know what happened, he had a very, very good start to the season, give or take up to the holidays or right thereafter. Everyone was talking about, he's going to the All-Star game. He's great. Look at this. He looks like he's an NHLer. but he had to work on some of his shortcomings, of course, and some of his weaknesses. And they put a lot of emphasis on that. The point production obviously took a hit because of it. Do you think that time that they worked with him, they said, okay, we know what his weaknesses are. We've been trying to work on getting them better. He will get them better, but maybe not to the point or not as quickly as we would want him to make the jump. That's one of the things that influenced Bolduc, or do you think the trade in acquiring Bolduc was all about Bolduc?
No, it's never all about Bolduc, but it's not a pitfall. Like, it's not because of Mayhew's pitfalls. It's because of the fact that Mayhew became a redundancy with the type of players the Canadiens already have on their blue line, right? Like, that's the way this management group operates, right? They trade from a position of strength to address weakness. That's what they've done all along. You know, Marc Bergevin used to talk about not trading from one position to fill another, to, like, you know, creating a hole to fill a hole. You know, the Canadiens haven't done that in any of these moves that they've made, right?
Yeah.
When they eventually moved Alex Romanov, they had a glut of left-handed, physical style defensemen coming up. They had Caden Gooley, they had Arbor Xhekaj, Jayden Struble.
Yeah.
Like, they knew they had something that they could potentially give up, even if they knew he's going to be a good player. I think they saw Logan Mayhew the same way, a player that, listen, I'm telling you, like, if you think people were down within the organization on Logan Mayhew, that couldn't have been further from the case. Like, the development team was extremely high on this player. The guys that drafted him and the scouting staff was extremely high on the player. They all believe he's going to be a good player in the National Hockey League. But they've got Reinbacher, and they've got Dobson now, and they've got Nick Hudson, and they got Mike Matheson.
He
said
going
to run their power play, like, no. Like,
he said on a couple of occasions the second that they got Dobson, he figured, you know what, there's something that might happen with him. All right, okay. So Struble, I'll tell you the one thing that he has or does less of than Xhekaj, I think is some of those bad penalties. And you know what? Struble takes penalties as well. I think Xhekaj showed a little bit less discipline in some of the penalties that he took. Like, you're always lacking discipline when you take a penalty. Mind you, some are good penalties. But you think that's one of the things that is an edge for Struble, and one of the reasons why Xhekaj didn't start the playoffs, besides the fact, like you mentioned, that Struble finished so strong?
I think there's context there, right? Like, the roles are different. Arbor is expected to defend each and every one of his teammates, no matter the situation. And so there are situations where he might take it over the line, and it's expected that he might, because that's his role. That's not Struble's role. Like, can Struble drop the gloves and get into a fight? I think I told you, I believe that he can do that. He hasn't done it all that much. It's not an expected part of his role that he's going to do that on a nightly basis.
He can defend himself. He can defend himself. I'm not so sure that he's...
He'll be tested more, and I think he'll stand up more than just defending himself. Let's put it that way. That's my opinion. We'll see if Jayden proves it. I think when it comes to Arbor, you know, he did a much better job of towing that balance, right? Like, he did have his role. He didn't just drop with anyone and everyone. It's a heck of a competition between these two guys.
Not always an easy.
They're two good defensemen, and they're two young defensemen, Tony.
Yeah,
like,
if I can, Eric, not always an easy thing when you come out of the U.S. hockey system or some of the U.S. colleges and come into the National Hockey League and fight, because you don't do much of it there. You don't do it at all, really. And I think of Mike Komisarek in that respect, right? You know, he was a big guy, and a lot of people thought he could have been very intimidating and assumed that he was going to be a very good fighter. Mike could defend himself, but he hadn't done enough to go up against heavyweights, of course. And the same thing is, you know, Xhekaj comes out of the CHL. Xhekaj played in the OHL. So I did a lot more of it there than obviously a guy like Struble would have. So I don't know how you practice this. I don't know, you know, how much what they do in the off season. But I think if Struble can add that element to his game, even though the game that element is kind of disappearing, but if he can add that element, it's an extra feather in his cap, I think.
It is. But look, you know, we're talking about two players who, between them, don't have 300 games of NHL experience.
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing what the expectations have become, because so many young players jump into the NHL, Tony, and they're expected to immediately make an impact, right? And so many of them do. It's just the nature of the salary cap world. You've got to incorporate more and more young players. And now with the space coming in, maybe we'll see just slightly less of that with guys starting at 18 years old in the league. But
yeah,
like I look at Xhekaj at 165 games and Struble at 112 games, and like there's 150 games for Xhekaj to like really round himself into the player that he's supposed to be at this level, where you can depend on him for 18 minutes a game, where he's going to fight, he's going to hit, and he's going to be a good defender and a great penalty killer. I look at Struble and say 112 games in, there's almost 200 games ahead of him to become the consistent, good puck moving, good skating guy who defends well and becomes a really good penalty killer. And the battle between these two players immediately at camp should drive both of them to the next level. And so I think, it's easy to look at like the downside of each one of those players and any of the players that we're talking about, but the upside is still quite large for both of them. And they have value to the Canadiens for sure. I think Arbor has great value to the Canadiens and really great value already on the trade market. I think there's a lot of teams that would kill to have an Arbor Xhekaj on their blue line. I think there's a lot of scouts that look at him and say, you know what? The road for Arbor to be a potential top 4 or a really good 5 in Montreal is a little muddier than it is with us. Struble doesn't quite have that value around the league, but has a way to build it up. Both of them have a road in front of them to really build it up with the Canadiens themselves, right? Like, so it's a really compelling time that we're going into for both guys that we're talking about. And look, I don't know if both of them are long-term going to end up with this team. I don't know.
I hear you.
They really, you look at the competition between the two guys and say, this is it, right? Like it's dog eat dog. It's one or the other. And we'll see. Injuries have a way of leveling things out, and maybe both get that opportunity.
Both of them can be considered an insurance plan. Speaking of insurance, all insurance isn't created equal, and you know where to find the right solution for you. Accent Insurance. Accent doesn't sell insurance. They shop insurance for you to find the right product. Right on the money, whatever your insurance needs, home, automobile, or business. Visit their website, www.accentassurance.com, or call them at 514-363-3636. Or the Montreal Canadiens going to pick up more or less points than they did a year ago. You can go all the way with Betway. Get a free bet up to $200. Your first bet loses. Scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link in the details section to create an account. Redeem your welcome offer. Offers only available for new customers. Terms and conditions apply. Offers not available in Ontario. Must be 18 years of age and older. And please play responsibly. All right, okay. Let's bring up the salaries for all the defensemen. Have a chart there. Noah Dobson, of course, 9.5 over the next 8 years. Caden Gooley makes 5.5 and will be UFA in 2031. Mike Matheson, final year of his contract, coming up at 4.875. Alex Carrier's got 2 years left at $3.75 million per season. Jayden Struble, of course, signing a 2-year deal at $1.412 million per season. Arbor Xhekaj is going into the final year of his contract at $1.3 million. And Lane Hudson will be going into the final year of his contract at $950,000. All right, okay. We have it here so that we can look at it to see what makes sense, what doesn't. And what makes sense is Dobson's not going anywhere. Caden Gooley's not going anywhere. And you think Lane Hudson, who will sign a deal either this offseason or at some point next season, will not go anywhere either. A couple of big questions are Xhekaj and Matheson, who are both entering the final year of their contract. Where do you stand on Mike Matheson tonight on July 28th? Because we've talked about him, and maybe our opinions may change depending on where we are here in terms of the month and the day. It's July 28th. Where do you stand on Matheson? How do you see it unveiling?
I think this completely depends on Matheson himself and how he sees himself with the Canadiens and what his future with the team would be. I think there would be an opportunity for him to remain with the Canadiens on I wouldn't call it a long time, call it a mid-term deal that pays him a little bit more than he currently makes. I believe that would probably be available to Mike Matheson if he wanted to sign that right now. But he's got to be okay with the role that he has moving forward. And he has to view it as the best opportunity for him and his family. I think coming to Montreal
could be the final contract of his career. Mind you, the way he skates, he glides. This is a player that you can see, barring injury, can play until his late 30s if he wants to.
Yeah, and I think it's all dependent on how he views it, right? Like, does he have a better opportunity somewhere else? Does he have a better opportunity not only role-wise but financially? I think the answer could be yes, but that's got to be weighed and balanced against the fact that I think coming to Montreal a few years ago from Pittsburgh was the best thing that ever happened to his career. I think he came right at a time where he had done some real cleanup to his game in Pittsburgh from Florida. And I think it came at a time where it thrust him in a role where he could be as important as he became to the Canadiens, and he thrived in that role and immediately took off. I think he proved to himself that he could get to the level that he always thought he was capable of, and he was able to do it right here. It hasn't been roses and perfect. You know, what it comes with being a hometown boy, and the criticism and scrutiny he's been under has been challenging at times and difficult to deal with, although he does a very good job of blocking out the noise. It's still going to get to him. It gets to his family, it gets to people around him, and inevitably circles its way back to him, even if he tries to avoid it at all costs. But look, you know, he's happy here. He's happy here. He's part of a team that's on the rise. He's a big part of the reason it's on the rise. He's been a phenomenal veteran. There's a reason he wears a letter. The respect he has garnered, both in the gym, in the room, and couple that with on the ice. It's huge. You know, like, I don't think the fans truly, at least some of them, don't truly appreciate how much. You know, I think there's some that do, but there's some that really don't appreciate how respected he is by the Montreal Canadiens. I'm not talking about management and coaching staff, the players themselves, okay? This guy's a big part of this team, and I think he'd like to be a big part of it moving forward too. But he has to be okay with what that is. And if he decides that role that he'll be thrust in over the years to come, with Dobson signed and Hudson looking at potentially long-term signing, you know, if not this summer, then down the line, at least a long-term future is under team control for a while. You know, he has to decide if it's the best situation for him, and if it isn't, how many other teams offer him the type of situation he's looking for. It's a tough decision. I think Mike Matheson would love nothing more than to take his time with it if he's a smart guy. I think if you're the Montreal Canadiens, you need to know soon. You know, and one more thing, just on the point, Tony.
Yeah.
Like you and I have talked about, it's hard to know what names are potentially available, because some might become available in the next month as teams reassess where they're at and things that they didn't get done that they'd like to get done. People have been asking me all summer, who do you think they'll go for a 2C? And that, like, a month ago, I looked into it. Mason McTavish wasn't available. Now there's huge buzz that he potentially is unhappy with his role, and Leo Carlson coming in there, and that potentially he's more available now than he ever has been. I don't know. Sources haven't told me that. But I'm just saying that's the nature of the trade market right now, with the way things were blocked up around free agency and the draft, and not the amount of trades that we expected might happen, with the dynamic being that there was one main seller who, by the way, hasn't sold the assets they want to sell in Pittsburgh, and all these buyers and teams looking to take the next step. What happens if 2 or 3 of these teams wake up tomorrow and say, you know what, we don't like the look of our blue line and we have a forward to give? Then all of a sudden it opens up a discussion where, if they don't have an answer from Matheson on what he wants his future to be in Montreal, they may not be willing to wait. They're definitely not going to want to put themselves in a position where they're holding the bag and they have no idea what happened with him.
But who knows, if there's a 3 or 4 year deal available for Mike Matheson, he could be part of a Canadiens team that can go far in 3 or 4 years from now, like really far. That's enticing. That's a lot of fun.
Or even next year, or the year after, or even this season coming. Like, he could be competitive for every season of that deal, and in a role where he's still used a great deal and counted on to be a big part of the team. The question is, does it hit the right value wheelhouse comparative to what his value would be on the open market? Does it put him in a position where he's happiest and he feels he's taking care of his family? That's all for Mike to decide. And it's a difficult, anybody who would be in that position would want to take their time and really think about it.
It's a nice statement. It's a nice statement for an organization when a hometown kid wants to come home the way he did. They went out, they made that deal for him. They gave up Jeff Petrie. He comes over from Pittsburgh, and then his contract is up. Liked the experience so much. After everything you hear about Montreal, the pressure, the media, the this, the that, the taxes, the schools, and all the language, and decides to stay and maybe decides to finish his career here. You know, I think that's something that other players could look at and say, hey, you know what? That's got to be a good sign.
It is. And I, you know, just because he may not be willing to sign on July 28th, doesn't mean that he won't get to make that decision. But, you know, I don't think the Canadiens necessarily want to take it to June 29th of 2026 without knowing.
I hear you.
I can't, you know, with the value that player has and that player could have. Look, in Montreal, moving forward, he's probably a 35-point defenseman who mostly plays penalty kill and gets almost exclusively defensive zone starts. If he's playing for some other team that doesn't have puck movers like Dobson and Hudson already on their blue line, he could be a 50 to 60-point player for every year of the next 4 or 5 that he signs for. So we're talking about how happy is he in Montreal relative to how happy he might be in a different role in a different place.
Let's end the podcast tonight with how we started it, basically talking about what it means for Jayden Struble, this 2-year deal at $1.412 million per season, what it can mean for Xhekaj in the battle between Xhekaj and Struble. Although Xhekaj would be RFA at the end of this year, are you thinking that this year could be the moment of truth for Xhekaj? Jayden Struble's got a 2-year deal. Xhekaj's playing the last year, but once again, he's RFA at the end of that year. Is it the moment of truth, or you look at it like it's always the moment of truth for these guys? We're talking about Struble and Xhekaj.
Yeah, I think it's a moment of truth for both of them, and I don't think it puts them in an uncomfortable situation, particularly Xhekaj, who was undrafted, signed out of nowhere, and has been in a deep blue line competition with a bunch of young guys for his entire time in Montreal. Xhekaj, you know, made one mistake in his second season coming in and kind of feeling like, okay, like I'm here, I've arrived, and my spot is secure. He won't do that again. And I say that as a mistake. Like he wasn't so arrogant as to think that's it, I'm locked in. But, you know, I remember he was a little bit much more secure in his boots than he ever has been as a hockey player at this level. He didn't make that mistake this past coming season, and he had a really good camp and you know, affirmed his place. He's coming in this year knowing, like, you know, okay, do I have a job? Yes. Am I guaranteed to be in the lineup every single night? No. And I'm gonna, you know, I just think the motivation factor for him and Struble knowing that is huge and probably progresses both players to the next part of their development.
And the internal battle in the competition is really going to be amazing, Eric, because you know what? It's funny the way things can change with one game, right? Like you said, Jayden Struble had a great end to this season, and he got the nod in the playoffs. First couple of games, the Canadiens got pushed around. We're on the opposite end of some pretty bad, some even nasty hits, some legal, some illegal. And then all of a sudden, you know, everyone's clamoring for Xhekaj to come in and impose the law. And he comes in game 3 and he hits everything, and the Canadiens hit everything, and the Canadiens just take it to the Washington Capitals and win. And then all of a sudden you think, okay, now I understand what everyone's saying. Xhekaj is absolutely essential in the playoffs. And then they play game 4, and Ovechkin goes after Carrier, and Wilson goes after who was it that he hit? He hit Carrier as well, did he not? Or Evans. And they're on the opposite end.
Both Ovechkin and Wilson hit Carrier.
Yeah, on Carrier, yeah. And there was one on, I think there was a hit on Evans too at one point. But yes, they were both on Carrier. And the Wilson hit was a thunderous hit, which right after that there was a Washington goal. And then all of a sudden you're saying, okay, well then Xhekaj couldn't stop the Capitals in the playoffs. And maybe, anyway, it was no one really won a spot last year. And that's why it's going to come down to the wire again this year.
No one fully lost it either, right? Like Struble played well in game 1. Did he play as well in game 2? No, but he didn't play bad. Xhekaj came in, played well. Wasn't, you know, the ultimate neutralizing threat, but certainly made his teammates stand a little bit taller, and there was an obvious effect there. Both players I'll end it with this. Both players have the ability to be impact players in the league. And I think they are only going to further affirm that as they move forward because they're both good hockey players. And like I said, one's at 112, one's at 165. That's the experience these guys have in the NHL. Yeah. I know we all want everybody to hit immediately, but like they've already shown that they can play in this league at very.
You think Struble could be an impact player in the National Hockey League?
Absolutely.
Define impact for me. Define impact.
When he an impact player is an all-day, everyday NHLer that you can rely on for 16 to 18 minutes a game. Like that's
okay. I'll take that.
An impact on the game. And like
okay, I'll buy that.
If you're a Stanley Cup contending defense,
yeah,
your worst guy's got to be able to do that. He's got to be able to play 16, 18 minutes a game and be relied on in all types of situations, not be sheltered. And I think the Canadiens haven't got to that point though, right? Yet. I mean, Struble and Xhekaj last year, they were under 11 minutes on average. No, they were 13 and a half, somewhere around there. I don't know what the average ended up at, but there was times where they'd play 18. There was times but consistently be able to play those numbers. Like if you're a Stanley Cup contending defense, you need 6 guys. I think the Canadiens have 7, 8 guys that could potentially do that. Maybe not as soon as this year, but at least 6 this year. And I just think if their worst guy, I don't want to say worst, if their lowest guy on the totem pole is playing 16, 17 minutes a game and you don't notice him all that much and yet he's playing well, that's a sign of a extremely strong defense. And on paper, we know it's an extremely strong defense. On the ice, we know it's pretty strong. And I think it's got some stuff to prove in terms of how good it looks on paper, but I think they could get there. Like this is with the guys who are coming up beneath Struble and Xhekaj, with Matheson in the role he's slated to fill this year, with Dobson coming. Yeah. Like I'd put this defense up against a lot of other ones in this league or I should say a very select few of other ones in this league that I think are elite.
Yeah, 14. You're right. 14:37 for Xhekaj time on ice in the regular season, and 14:57 for Jayden Struble. I think the numbers were
those numbers come up by 2.5 minutes. The numbers for Matheson go from 24 or whatever it was to 21.5, and everybody looks reliable within those roles and designated ice time. You're cooking with an elite defense. And I think the Canadiens have that on paper, and they're going to have to go prove it on the ice.
And Struble had once again a little bit more ice time on ice in the playoffs than Xhekaj. So but they're close though. They are definitely close. Eric, thanks for doing this, man, on a nice summer day in Montreal. We'll talk to you soon.
Pleasure. Take care.
All right, there you have it. Eric Engels of Sportsnet, sportsnet.ca. Special thanks to our sponsors. Betway is one. Accent Insurance Solutions is another. Bittt, Tibi, and Playground, as well as Energy Transportation Group. If you like the podcast tonight, leave us a 5-star review. It's our way of basically knowing that you love us. For Shane Gaumont and Master Control, thanks for watching, everyone. Sick Podcast. I'm Marinaro.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. LaVie.tv, embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.